rupee and markets. From tax reforms to middle-class relief. We decode what's in it for you. Stay ahead with our expert analysis and global perspective.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shival Janma.
And I'm Hemkaur Saroya, and on the show today, the fallout from DeepSeek is still revealing itself, with the US officials looking at national security implications of the Chinese artificial intelligence. We'll bring you the latest on this on the show today.
Also on World DNA, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been invited by US President Trump to a meeting at the White House on the 4th of February. Netanyahu is the first foreign leader to be invited to the White House during President Trump's second term. We will be bringing you all the details on that front as well. This and a lot more lined up for you right here on World DNA. Let's start with the headlines.
Several people injured after crowd crush at Maha Kumbh Mela in India's Prayagraj. Incident occurs ahead of the second Amrit Snan after a barrier broke down due to heavy rush.
Indian Space Agency ISRO conducts 100th successful launch, sends NVS-02 satellite on board a GSLV rocket from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota.
US President Donald Trump invites Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a meeting at the White House. Israeli Prime Minister's office says meeting to take place on the 4th of February.
Russian President Putin says his country could hold peace talks with Ukraine but rules out speaking directly with Zelensky.
Passengers, crew evacuated as plane catches fire on South Korean runway. All 76 people on board escaped safely after blaze began before takeoff at the Gimhae airport.
In January, US consumer confidence unexpectedly fell to a 4-month low on concerns about the labour market and the outlook for the broader economy. While the labour market looks good on paper, job seekers say it's taking longer and longer to find work.
England keep the T20I series against India alive. Ben Duckett scored a half-century before the bowlers restricted the Indian batters to register a 26-run win in Rajkot. As Chinese AI application DeepSeek surpasses American tech giants, the pushback has begun from the US government.
And this is along with the US government is also lawmakers who are citing concerns for national security of the US now. US Navy has instructed its members to avoid using this Chinese model altogether due to potential security and ethical concerns associated with the model's origin and its usage.
Several lawmakers have also weighed in with concerns about the application's access to US users. John Molnar, who chairs the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, said that the United States cannot allow models such as DeepSeek to risk national security. He called for stronger export controls on technologies critical to DeepSeek's AI infrastructure.
Now, the concerns are founded in Chinese law, which grants Beijing broad authority to access data from companies based in China. DeepSeek, which is based in the Chinese city of Hangzhou, notes in its privacy policy that the personal information that it collects from users is held on secure servers located in China. Now, according to the policy, the company says it collects information including users' device model, operating system, keystroke patterns or rhythms, IP addresses and system languages. It collects service-related diagnostic and performance information, including crash reports and performance logs.
The fact that DeepSeek servers are based in mainland China differentiates it from TikTok. In an effort to mitigate US regulatory concerns, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, in 2022 moved all of its US data to infrastructure owned by American software maker Oracle.
DeepSeek's new reasoning AI model called R1 rivals technology from US AI giants like OpenAI, and the DeepSeek model is open source, meaning any AI developer can use it. On Monday, the DeepSeek app has surged to the top of Apple's App Store, dethroning OpenAI's ChatGPT. The rise of DeepSeek has wiped $1 trillion from leading US tech index, triggered predictions of turmoil for Silicon Valley.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Professor Nick Bostrom. Bostrom is Director, Future of Humanity Institute, University of Oxford. He's joining us from Montreal. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Hello.
To begin with, what is your assessment of the extent of security and ethical concerns which are associated with DeepSeek?
Well, I think it's a relatively early stage in what will become an increasingly prominent issue. AI, I think, is no longer just a kind of interesting academic research topic or even just a potentially profitable commercial application, but also now a key piece on the geopolitical strategy board.
Professor, the scope to which this chatbot can influence, whether it's geopolitics or whether it's people's thought processes with the kind of responses it's going to get, how widespread can that influence really be, and what would be the key concerns at this point in the US?
I think it would be a mistake to focus too much on DeepSeek as it is now or AI as it is now and think of that as the issue, but this is a very rapidly moving field, and I think the focus amongst the security establishment is more about what will AI be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So it's not a static thing, but it's a sort of sign that China is in this as well, and that they have leading edge capabilities, and that causes concerns in the US, which has tried to position itself so as to have a dominant position in AI.
Right, and just to expand on that, of course, you're saying that this is not static, and we've seen the rapidly evolving nature of AI. That being said, what is your assessment of how actually it will be perhaps from a year from now or 5 years from now, and the impact that it can have on the economy going forward?
I think the progress over the last several years has been remarkable, and I expect continuing very rapid advances. We are seeing the early stages of the transition from these large language models to systems that can think and reason. So the latest models from OpenAI have the ability to use time during runtime to improve the answers. They can sort of think for a period of time before answering. And I think that's something we will see more of this year, and also the introduction of agents. So AI systems that don't just wait until you ask them a question and then they give an answer, but systems that can start doing tasks on the user's behalf. Initially, maybe on your laptop or desktop, running around and making restaurant reservations and such, but then increasingly longer-term tasks coming down the pike there. And also the AI systems we already have are being used in the AI labs and in the software industry as coding assistants. So they are starting to actually contribute to accelerating the AI development process itself.
Professor Bostrom, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. There are a lot of concerns regarding where that data is going to go and how it's going to get saved and how it's going to get used once it is saved on servers in China. Of course, that is something we will be tracking closely as the developments come out. That was Professor Bostrom joining us from Montreal.
All right, several people sustained injuries after a crowd crush at Maha Kumbh Mela in India's Prayagraj.
Extremely unfortunate. Prime Minister Modi dialed Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath to take stock of the situation. He also reviewed the developments and called for immediate support measures. Now, the stampede took place near the Sangam, the confluence of the rivers Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati, as scores of people turned up for a holy dip on the occasion of Mauni Amavasya in the wee hours of Wednesday.
Special Executive Officer Akanksha Rana said a stampede-like situation arose after some barriers broke. She added that some people were injured and are undergoing treatment, adding that it was not a serious situation.
Huge throngs of devotees have gathered today to take part in the second Amrit Snan at the world's largest religious gathering. The second Amrit Snan or holy bath is taking place on the occasion of Mauni Amavasya, occurring on the new moon day, and the akhadas who usually begin the holy bath have decided to cancel their Amrit Snan, keeping in mind the public interest. All right, and for more on this, we have Dharamjot who's joining us over the phone line. Dharamjot, what's the latest do we have on this? There are reports of the number of injuries that have taken place. Any number that we have at this point? How grave is the situation?
Well, Shivan, it is a fairly grave situation at the moment. However, there has been no official number that the authorities have announced with respect to the death toll or the casualties in terms of the people who have been injured. Now, we do know that there were many medical officials who had been deployed at the Maha Kumbh Mela, especially for today when security and other measures were ramped up. Given the fact that close to 100 million people were expected to attend and participate in the Amrit Snan today, given that this is one of the holiest days in the entire Kumbh Mela. Now, the Prime Minister has spoken to the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath twice today. He has been taking continued stock of the situation at the Kumbh. However, as I mentioned, we still don't have any official numbers from the authorities with respect to the casualties so far. A lot of saints and seers from all the akhadas that are participating in the Kumbh Mela have cancelled their participation in the Amrit Snan as of now until the situation comes under control, Shivan.
All right, Dharam, thanks so much for getting us the latest. We will be tracking this closely as the developments come in from Prayagraj. All right, moving forward from here, US President Donald Trump has ordered a freeze on federal funding, and the decision could disrupt education, healthcare, poverty programs, housing assistance, disaster relief and several other initiatives.
All of these depend on federal dollars. Potentially trillions of dollars in federal grants, loans and other aid face possible suspension by this White House order. But a federal judge halted the order shortly before it was to take effect on Tuesday afternoon. The order was until at least Monday, after several non-profit groups filed suit claiming it was illegal.
So I think the organizing idea here is that the White House doesn't want the federal government to be spending money to support programs to which President Trump is opposed. And the problem with that is that that's not his call. Under the Constitution, the way the appropriations power works is it belongs to Congress, not the president. If the president could decide not to spend whatever money he doesn't want to spend, then there's not much point in having a Congress at that point.
This radical measure follows a similar freeze on most US foreign aid. Democrats have blasted the move as unconstitutional. They have challenged the spending freeze as unlawful and dangerous.
Funds for things like disaster assistance, local law enforcement, rural hospitals, aid to the elderly, food for people in need, all are on the chopping block in this new administration. Why? They need tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy, and these cuts, they think, will fund them.
We could see a screeching halt to resources for childcare, cancer research, housing, police officers, opioid addiction treatment, rebuilding roads and bridges, and even disaster relief efforts. He was just in California to witness the devastation, and now he is holding back that aid. Trump's actions would wreak havoc in red and blue communities everywhere.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has defended the move as part of Trump's bid to make government good stewards of taxpayer dollars.
She said the freeze is not a blanket stop on spending, but a tool to check that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with Trump's executive order. The White House memo has listed areas that might be impacted, which include examples of racial equality and climate change programs that Trump has vowed to eradicate.
Also, US President Donald Trump's crackdown on immigration has intensified. The large-scale deportation operation has now reached New York City.
With the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE arresting several illegal immigrants accused of committing crimes, US Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem joined the immigration operation in New York on Tuesday and posted photos on social media. She also said that ICE has arrested a criminal alien charged with kidnapping, assault and burglary, without giving further details on the suspect or the scope of the operations. Noem said that dirtbags like this will be removed from our streets.
Migrants have been arrested in several parts of New York City, with residents criticizing President Trump's actions. They also urged Trump to stop the raids and reduce vigilance.
This country was built on immigrants. I mean, I'm Native American, African American. My family has been here since the 1830s. I can trace my family back from the 1830s. And I mean, I feel bad that there's like immigrants that come over here that are already bad, and they're stealing from American citizens, and stealing and killing and doing wrong. But other than that, I mean, this country is founded on immigrants.
Meanwhile, US Marine forces have started their reinforcements along the southern border by adding barbed wires to certain sections of the border wall near Mexico.
In the midst of these migrant arrests, officials from San Francisco rallied to show support for their immigration communities.
And to our immigrant neighbors, this city is your home. And know that I and everyone here will continue working to make sure it remains a safe and welcoming home for all families, no matter where you come from.
Immigrant parents have raised fears of sending their children to school. However, educators have reassured that schools are a safe place for their kids. Meanwhile, officials in Chicago say that more than 100 immigrants have been arrested by federal immigrant officers.
Chicago's mayor said that President Trump simply wants to stoke fear and is not serious about transforming the immigration system.
He wants to stoke fear in the people so that he can ultimately, behave as the supreme existence, which is quite dangerous, because when you have a leader that believes that they are supreme and above the law, there's some real nasty history that.
In other developments, Mexico has opened 10 migration centers for immigrants deported by the US. Mexican authorities have set up these centers in the northern parts of the country.
No, we as Mexicans, if there's a foreign person at the border, for humanitarian reasons at 7 degrees Celsius, 19.4 Fahrenheit, in Ciudad Juarez, we can't ignore the people. There's permanent coordination that has existed since the past.
President Trump signed an executive order to develop a next-generation missile defense shield for the US.
This was modelled after Israel's Iron Dome, but this time the vision extends beyond Earth and into space. More details in our next report.
The world is increasingly becoming a dangerous place. New deadly missiles are being designed and deployed. The Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans and the Iranians, they're all expanding their arsenals. Hypersonic missiles are becoming the most sought-after weapons. These weapons can maneuver at 5 times the speed of sound while changing trajectory unpredictably. The traditional missile defense systems designed for predictable ballistic trajectories stand powerless against these new threats. Donald Trump has unveiled an ambitious project that aims to protect the US against the evolving threats of ballistic, hypersonic and advanced cruise missiles.
And in a little while, I'll be signing 4 new executive orders. First is that I'm directing our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who's going to be great, by the way. Thank you for the support. Thank you very much for the support. You really did support him greatly. I think he's going to be fantastic. I know him very well. I think he's going to be fantastic. He's what we need to immediately begin the construction of a state-of-the-art Iron Dome missile defense shield, which will be able to protect Americans. You know, we protect other countries, but we don't protect ourselves.
Unlike conventional ground-based systems, this new shield will have a constellation of orbital interceptors capable of detecting and neutralizing threats during their vulnerable boost phase. The strategy marks a paradigm shift in missile defense, targeting hypersonic weapons when they're most exposed, before they can execute evasive maneuvers. The scale is staggering. While Israel's Iron Dome protects a nation roughly the size of New Jersey, America's space shield must defend a continent. The technical challenges are unprecedented, maintaining constant orbital coverage, achieving split-second response times, and intercepting threats traveling at Mach 5 plus speeds. Currently, the US relies on a layered defense network that includes THAAD, Aegis, and Patriot systems. Together, these systems protect against ballistic and hypersonic missile threats. However, experts warn they may not be enough to counter emerging technologies and long-range missile strikes, particularly ICBMs armed with nuclear warheads. The strategic calculus is clear. US missile defense capabilities, while sophisticated, were designed for a different era. The Trump administration has revealed few details about the new missile defense system and how the plan would be executed. Building such a protective layer around the US would have an astronomical cost. But given the changing nature of threats, the US is preparing for the wars of tomorrow. Bureau Report, WION World as One.
All right, shifting our focus now, France is discussing with Denmark the prospects of sending troops to Greenland after US President Donald Trump's warning to annex the Danish territory.
French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot, in an interview, spoke about the ongoing discussions between the two nations, but also mentioned that Denmark does not wish to proceed with the idea at the moment. Now, Barrot's comments came as Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen was touring European capitals to drum up support from allies in dealing with Trump.
The Danish Prime Minister visited Berlin and Paris to speak with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and French President Emmanuel Macron. He is also expected to meet NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels.
Of course, I would like to say that it's absolutely crucial for Denmark in this situation that we stand together in Europe. This applies not only in relation to our current discussion about the kingdom, but also in general with the war in Ukraine and a more turbulent situation in the Baltic Sea. So European unity and European strength are the most important thing.
The newly inaugurated US president has become increasingly focused on claiming the huge Arctic island. As of now, the US president has specifically not ruled out using military force or economic coercion to take the island from Denmark. European Union says US would not invade the mineral-rich island. However, it is ready to send troops if the need arises.
All right, with that, it's time now to slip into a short break, but we're leaving you with all these headlines, climate headlines that are making headlines across the globe today.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
India's Budget 2025 is here. Will it fuel growth or deepen inflation's bite? Will it support the rupee and markets? From tax reforms to middle-class relief, we decode what's in it for you. Stay ahead with our expert analysis and global perspective.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Maha Kumbh. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Haim, and I'm Shivan. Lots more on this side of the show as well. Let's start with the headlines.
Several people injured after crowd crush at Maha Kumbh Mela in India's Prayagraj. Prime Minister Modi speaks to Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, takes stock of the situation on ground.
Indian Space Agency ISRO conducts the 100th successful launch, sends NVS-02 satellite on board a GSLV rocket from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota.
US President Donald Trump invites Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a meeting at the White House. Israeli Prime Minister's office says meeting to take place on the 4th of February.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says his country could hold peace talks with Ukraine, but rules out speaking directly with Ukrainian President Zelensky.
Passengers, crew evacuated as plane catches fire on South Korean runway. All 176 people on board escaped safely after blaze began before takeoff at the Jimai airport.
Trump has indicated that he is contemplating broad levies to alter US supply chains. The latest is his desire to implement tariffs that are much bigger than 2.5% across the board as soon as this week. Trump says this is to protect our country, quote unquote.
All right, Indian Space Agency ISRO has successfully accomplished a milestone 100th rocket launch.
At 6:23 a.m. Indian time, today the GSLV Mark II lifted off from the second launch pad at India's Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh. Now, since the time India began taking nascent steps in launching rockets to space, the Satish Dhawan Space Center spaceport has been India's gateway to the orbit. A short while ago, the 420-ton rocket carrying the 2.25-ton satellite lifted off majestically amid the haze at sunrise hour. This is the 17th launch mission of India's GSLV Mark II rocket and the 8th flight of this variant with an indigenous cryogenic stage. The GSLV Mark II rocket carried the NVS 02 satellite, an Indian-built navigation satellite that is meant to serve civilian and defense users.
NVS is the second in the series of 5 satellites that are planned. WION's principal correspondent Siddharth MP reports from the spaceport and tells us about the journey that has led to this 100th launch.
Over the last 5 decades, the Indian Space Agency ISRO has performed 99 launch missions from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. This is 6 generations of rockets that have been launched from the spaceport here, and now we have the landmark 100th launch lifting off from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. The 100th rocket, the GSLV Mark II rocket, the 422-ton vehicle, is lifting off, lighting up the dawn skies here at Sriharikota. Majestic liftoff we have right now, with the characteristic roar of the engines being heard all over for a several kilometer radius. This is a very important mission for India, not just because of the milestone 100th number, but also because of the NVS-02 satellite that this particular rocket is carrying. NVS-02, simply put, is part of a large constellation of Indian satellites. There's 5 satellites in the NVS series, and NVS is meant to be more like an Indian version of GPS, but of course it's not global. GPS, Russia's GLONASS, all of these are position, navigation and timing services. But the Russian and American versions are global in nature, whereas the Indian one is regional in nature. NVS satellites will cover Indian mainland and also 1500 kilometers from Indian mainland. So you could say more like South Asia region. So that's what this satellite will cover, and 5 satellites in the NVS series will eventually be launched, and this is the second one that's taking to the skies from Sriharikota. This is a mission that gains immense significance for India's strategic and civilian users, because the position, navigation and timing signals are the kind that will be used by our cell phones, common cell phones. At the same time, it will also be used by India's defense forces. From Sriharikota, Siddharth MP, WION World is One.
Former Chief Minister of Delhi and Aam Aadmi Party's national convener Arvind Kejriwal has stoked a major controversy, alleging that BJP-led government in neighbouring state of Haryana is poisoning the river Yamuna.
A vital lifeline for Delhi's citizens, his remarks come at a crucial time, just days before the Delhi elections. India's Election Commission has asked Kejriwal to substantiate his claims about Haryana allegedly poisoning river Yamuna's water. The poll panel has reminded the AAP leader of the legal provisions that can lead to up to 3 years imprisonment for, and I'm quoting here, mischievous statements against national integration.
Kejriwal charged the BJP-led government in Haryana with deliberately allowing industrial effluents to flow into the Yamuna River. The Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi has urged the Election Commission to take immediate action to ensure the safety of Delhi's water supply and demanded that the Haryana government take immediate steps to stop pollution in the river. His claims were also backed by Delhi Chief Minister Atishi.
The Haryana government under BJP has mixed poison in the water coming to Delhi from Yamuna and sent it here. It is only due to the vigilance of our Delhi Jal Board engineers that they caught this and stopped the water at the Delhi border, not allowing it to enter the city. Otherwise, that would have caused mass genocide. We have seen such things in wars, but today what the BJP has done by mixing poison in Delhi's water supply is an attempt to create chaos in Delhi, hoping the blame would fall on the Aam Aadmi Party.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Delhi Jal Board, which supplies water in the national capital, was quick to debunk the claims. She wrote to the Delhi Chief Secretary, calling the statements by Delhi Chief Minister Atishi and Kejriwal false and misleading, emphasizing that the Delhi Jal Board regularly monitors water quality and adjusts treatment processes. The officer contradicted Kejriwal's allegations that the Haryana government had released poison into the Yamuna River.
Slamming the Delhi Jal Board, Delhi Chief Minister Atishi alleged that the organisation was forced to misrepresent the facts after they were exposed.
Meanwhile, responding to the allegations that Haryana was poisoning the river Yamuna, the state's Chief Minister, Naib Singh Saini, accused Kejriwal of spreading lies and threatened to file a defamation suit.
Kejriwal should immediately apologize to the people of Haryana and Delhi for this statement, otherwise we will file a defamation suit against him.
And Pakistan has criminalized online disinformation.
It has passed a legislation that enshrines punishments of up to 3 years in prison for anyone who spreads fake news. Now, this decision has been strongly opposed by Pakistani journalists. They say that the law is designed to crack down on dissent.
The law says anyone who intentionally spreads, displays or transmits false information which intends to cause fear, panic or unrest in society may face up to 3 years imprisonment, a fine of over $23,000 or both.
The law was rushed through the National Assembly with little warning last week before being approved by the Senate on Tuesday. As journalists walked out of the gallery in protest, the Senate Standing Committee says the bill primarily seeks to modernize the legislative framework for combating cybercrimes in Pakistan. The Interior Secretary emphasized that the bill is written in good faith and aims to protect the general public. Employee pay raises are set to decelerate again in 2025.
And this according to a Gartner survey of 300 CFOs and finance leaders. Only 61% of CFOs plan to increase salaries this year, down from 71% in 2024 and 86% in 2023.
Now, the slowdown reflects easing inflation and lower voluntary attrition, reducing pressure on employers to raise wages. However, despite a cooling job market, employees continue to face high costs for essential goods.
Now, the survey highlights a decline in the size of planned salary hikes in 2023. 16% of the CFOs aimed for 10% or higher increases, but by 2025, that figure dropped to 11%. Similarly, while 70% of the CFOs planned raises between 4% and 9% in 2023, only 50% will do so in 2025. Meanwhile, 37% of the CFOs now expect to offer only nominal increases, up from just 9% in 2023.
With wage growth slowing, Gartner advises CFOs to collaborate with Chief Human Resource Officers to develop competitive pay strategies, especially for key talent. Experts warn that reducing salary hikes could impact employee engagement and retention. Companies are urged to monitor workforce sentiment and adjust pay structures accordingly.
And Afghanistan is grappling with an economic crisis. Its currency, the Afghani, has sharply depreciated against the US dollar.
Here's a detailed report on how the currency fluctuation is impacting daily life and the measures being taken to stabilize the economy in Afghanistan. Take a look.
Afghanistan's currency, the Afghani, has seen a sharp depreciation in recent days, falling from 70 to nearly 80 Afghanis against the US dollar. The sudden decline has sparked concerns among Kabul residents who are witnessing a rising price for basic goods.
This may mean nothing to the rest of the world, but it has a big impact in Afghanistan. The price changes are not noticeable for the businessmen maybe, but it's very difficult for the poor.
Analysts attribute the fluctuation to reduced foreign aid, with the U.S. freezing assistance under President Donald Trump's administration. Afghanistan, one of the poorest countries in the world, relies heavily on dollar inflows to aid organizations, which help stabilize the local currency. Without these inflows, the demand for the Afghani has dropped, further weakening its value.
The currency depreciation has an impact on everything. It's difficult for everyone. Food, fuel, gas, the price of everything goes up as the dollar goes up. Poverty is only going to increase.
The currency crisis has hit Kabul's markets hard. Prices of essential goods like flour, oil, and rice have surged by 200 to 500 Afghanis, leaving many residents struggling to make ends meet. For a country where nearly 15 million people are already facing hunger, the economic instability has exacerbated daily hardships. With winter in full swing, the World Food Programme warns of a worsening crisis for vulnerable Afghans.
Everything has gotten expensive because of the dollar. The price of dry goods is going up. We can see the difference between yesterday and today, and the difference between 2 days ago and yesterday. It's a very big loss.
The Afghan Central Bank has attempted to calm fears, announcing a $25 million auction to stabilize the currency. However, the World Bank has highlighted Afghanistan's reduced capacity to shield its economy from external shocks, citing the urgent need for consistent foreign exchange inflows. Analysts warn that without sustained aid or a diversified export base, the Afghani stability remains fragile. For now, the economic fallout of the currency plunge continues to ripple across Kabul, leaving millions anxious about an uncertain future. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And in sports, England have kept the 5-match T20I series against India alive. A fighting innings from Liam Livingstone and a collaborative bowling effort led by Adil Rashid helped the Three Lions win the third match in Rajkot.
That was by 26 runs. Put to bat first, England made another poor start. Phil Salt scored only 5 runs before he was sent packing by Hardik Pandya in the second over. Captain Jose Buttler and Ben Duckett then revived the innings. The pair added 76 runs for the second wicket before Buttler became Varun Chakravarti's first wicket of the night. Duckett scored his first 50 of the series but could not build on that. He was dismissed in the 10th over for 51 as England reached 87 for 3.
India's spin attack led by Chakravarti again put England in trouble. The 33-year-old claimed his second 5-wicket haul. Akshar Patel and Ravi Bishnoi also chipped in as the visitors limped to 127 for 8 in 16 overs. Liam Livingstone's 43 of 24 balls helped the Three Lions post 171 for 9. Mohammad Shami made his long-awaited return from injury but went wicketless. India never really got going in the chase. Sanju Samson, Abhishek Sharma and Captain Suryakumar Yadav all departed cheaply, leaving the world champions at 51 for 3 in the 6-over power play. Hardik Pandya put up some fight for the hosts, but the 31-year-old could not turn the game in India's favour, thanks to some outstanding bowling from Jamie Overton and Bryden Cars. India crossed the 100-run mark in the 15th over and needed 72 runs in the next 30 balls to seal the 5-match series. With Pandya in the middle, there were still hopes, but as the required rate soared, Pandya had to take risks, which led to his dismissal in the 19th over. India were eventually restricted to 145 for 9, and this was the men in Blue's first home loss after 10 games.
That's up in the air. This would be another one. Yeah, aggression in the first couple of games, and I'd say controlled aggression today. Smile from England's captain. He's had a good night. He too has had a good night. Jofra Archer expensive in the last game. England's approach with the ball slightly...
Alright, let's now shift our focus to the world of fashion. Just a day after Paris Men's Fashion, the Fashion City welcomed designers from across the world to showcase their haute couture collection. Take a look.
This somehow looks at all the problems, all the pertinent problems related to global warming, related to climate change, which we are seeing today, and then how nature would start rebuilding herself. So this collection somehow is a bit of a storytelling of what is happening on the planet. So that's why I thought that the pale blue dot is an apt name.
Hollywood star Jennifer Lopez brought a blend of 1950s Hollywood musical and gritty prison drama to Sundance with her new film Kiss of the Spider-Woman. More details about the premiere in this next story. Take a look.
It's about how love can kind of cure any divide, right? Like these two people who couldn't be more different in this cell together. Doesn't matter their sexuality, their political beliefs, none of it. They just see there's two human beings there that allow each other to see each other and fall in love. And it's exactly the kinds of story that we need to see right now.
This story is just one of those that transcended time. Everything that was happening in the original book is still, those themes are still very much alive right now. So I think more than ever it's important that everyone in the United States, everyone around the world knows you're not alone and you get to determine who you are and what and how you identify. You get to determine your truth and no one can stop you.
I knew she would help get it made, but I also knew she was the only person who could play this part, you know, because it's a diva. We don't have that many divas in our lives anymore. It's sort of, I don't know whether it's gone out of fashion, but it's sort of not explored in the same way, you know?
All right, on to other news now from the world of entertainment. As the public feud between Jake Lively and Justin Baldoni continues to grow and accelerate, a New York federal judge told both sides in an order to prepare for a March 9th, 2026 trial. He has also moved an initial conference from mid-February to next week and told lawyers to be prepared to address complaints about pre-trial publicity and attorney conduct. Lively sued Baldoni, his production company and others in New York in late December for sexual harassment and asked for unspecified damages. Baldoni sued earlier this month, accusing Lively and her husband, Deadpool actor Ryan Reynolds, of defamation and extortion.
One could say that Taylor Swift's championship era has reached its second consecutive season. The 14-time Grammy Award-winning superstar returned to Arrowhead Stadium to watch her boyfriend Travis Kelce and the rest of the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Buffalo Bills in their third consecutive Super Bowl. Swift began her high-profile romance with Kelce last season. Since then, the singer has been a regular visitor at his games. The celebrations have kicked off in China for the Lunar New Year, which begins tomorrow.
As the Chinese hope for a prosperous year of the snake, the country dazzles with lights, music and dance. Take a look at these images.
Our chairman, she has really high demands and hopes for our future. I hope I can progress together with our country and we can both realize our dreams for the future.